Next up, Thunderjaws for the Amstrad CPC. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a sticker there, because usually these games would get released on loads of different machines, but they'd use the same box, they'd just put a different sticker on. Like for example this, so at least you know it's an Amstrad disc game. And actually they're usually orange if they're Amstrad games as well. I don't have the instructions, but I do have a different game in here. And I think that's just because the seller didn't want the tape to move about too much, so they just chucked in a different game. Thunderjaws is an arcade conversion, and it's a scrolling shooter with two different types of levels. One that takes place in the water and one that takes place indoors. I mean, it was really common back then for games to be released on loads of different machines, and after a certain point the typical machines would be the Amiga, the Atari ST, the Spectrum, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad, and then sometimes the PC. For some reason, the full version of the Spectrum version was never released, even though there was a demo of it with one of the Spectrum magazines. The full game is missing in action. Yeah, before I play this, I should say, I've been saying in my past couple of Amstrad videos that this machine keeps chewing up my cassette tapes, and I know a way around it now. I don't know the exact reason why it's happening, but I do have a solution. You see these tapes have got a see-through bit, and then they go to the brown bit, which is the magnetic part of it. If I roll it forward a little bit, or fast forward it, then you can see the connector between the see-through and the magnetic part of the tape. There's a little white bit, and I think that is slightly thicker than the rest of it, and I think that is catching on the tape mechanism somewhere. So if I just move it a little bit further, so it's on the magnetic tape but it's not quite at the bit where the game code is, so about there will be fine. If I just start it from there, then the game will load fine. Cassette games are not quite as bad as people make out, but there are some that take a long time to load. Now this takes a fairly long time to load. I timed it and it takes 8 minutes to get to the title screen, and then it takes about 2 minutes for every level to load up. So it is a multi-loader, but it's not too bad. And thankfully it's not one of those games where you have to make a note of the tape counter, because my tape counter is just gone. It's broken off completely. And then after a short while the loading screen gets replaced by the main game border, I guess. It's not completely uncommon for computer games to take place in a smaller window just to keep the speed up, because these machines were not always designed specifically to play games. Yeah, so now I have to turn the tape over, rewind it to the end, and then it will load up the title screen with music. It fades out as well. So now we're going into level 1, and it's a pretty short load. It takes about 2 minutes to get into. You'll know if you play this game properly that it takes about as long to load the level as it does to play through the levels, which is why multi-load games are a bit of a pain in the butt. So I'm guessing you're infiltrating underwater bases in this game, and these first levels are just swimming to the underwater base. That blue thing on the floor there is actually energy. Oh god, it's a bit tight, isn't it? There's some interesting sound effects, but there's not many of them. Do I want to get that? I do want to get that energy, yes. With a bit of skill you can avoid most things actually, but I've found that keeping on moving to the right is probably better than stopping in most circumstances. But you will get hit quite a lot. There we go, now an on-foot section. Now it should be said that this is very much like that classic game Rolling Thunder. You can jump up to that top level if you hold down fire and press jump at the same time. God. At least there's some nice colourful explosions. It's a bit like Lemmings, isn't it, when they explode? You do get some different weapons, but it's quite difficult to know what you're picking up because all of the weapons look exactly the same. And this is the first level boss. That was easy, wasn't it? Yeah, and now we're loading up level 2 already. Don't know why it has to load so much because those levels were quite short, weren't they? I think there's only 4 levels in this game. Alright, level 2. By the way, it says press fire to play, but it automatically starts the level anyway. So you don't really get a chance to look at that little introduction screen. But it's loaded in some nice new graphics. I actually quite like the graphics in this game. It's not really anything spectacular, design-wise or programming-wise. It's nothing amazing. You know, it moves quite nicely. It's just about fast enough, I'd say. You do get a pretty narrow window to move about in. And to be quite honest with you, I'm just running away from everything. So it's weird, I don't really know what to think. In some ways it's not very good and it's a bit sloppy. It's presented really well, but in other ways it's like a bit of a rush job. Did a bit of a big jump there. So if you do one of them bigger jumps, then you can actually reach them guys that are on those top platforms. Them little robots at the top there. But yeah, the thing about this game is that there really should be more to it, gameplay wise. So all you do really is just kind of keep moving right. And you can duck beneath the bullets that those enemies fire. Sometimes you do still get hit by them, even when you duck, but that's pretty much all you do, and there's almost never any point of going to the top level, so you may as well just stay on the bottom and just sort of plod along. And you do get quite a few continues, so you can make it quite far, even if you get hit quite a lot. I don't know, I still quite like it in a way, but I was expecting it to be a bit better. I remember seeing a YouTuber do a long play of this quite a long time ago, and I remember it looking quite good, but actually playing it is a bit different. Oh, actually, I made the right choice by going to the top there. There's just less enemies on the top. Alright, so we've moved to a new section. See, I still got hit even though I was ducking. Nice climbing animation there. This is the boss area. Oh god. So this boss rarely actually shoots at you. Thankfully, because I've got the flamethrower, I dealt massive damage to him. But this is a weird old boss. When he's in range, just do a high jump and just attack him. See, things like this that make me think this game is actually quite sloppy. Like it was a massive rush job and they didn't really have time to add any gameplay to it. But to be fair, it could be accurate to the arcade game. This is actually an Atari arcade game. It's not exactly one of their more famous ones. I think games like this were licensed, not so much because they were good games that would sell well on home computers, but just because for some reason everybody was desperate to get all of the licenses. So absolutely everything was licensed almost. Maybe it's just easier to make licensed games than it is to make original games. Alright, so there we go. That's the end of level 2. So yeah, I promise you I don't press the fire button, but it just goes ahead and starts up anyway. Ugh, what happened there? Now to be fair, this is actually starting to get more difficult, so they did put a difficulty curve in there. Whoa. Oh, he took me out in one hit. Thankfully, when you use a continue, you just continue from exactly where you were before. Wasn't expecting there to be a boss at the end of this section. As everything else, he explodes into bubbles. And look at this, we've got an entirely new area with different graphics. So this is why I say that I don't really know if this game was a sloppy rush job or whether they put lots of effort into it. They clearly put effort into the game. Yeah, they put all of the effort into the presentation, but the gameplay itself is just lacking a little bit. I guess these are firemen, or fire robots. They're actually exactly the same as the robots on the other two levels, but they just change the graphics for them, and those dogs are the same. I think I wanted this to be better than it is, because this is one of those games that I've always had in my mind that I wanted to get eventually. And I do have most of the games that I wanted to get for my Amstrad. There's still one or two more that I don't have. And I do want to get another copy of Prehistoric 2 one of these days because my copy doesn't load anymore. Oh god, look at this guy. Chunky pixels. I never actually worked out how to really approach this boss. Oh my god. I'm close to death here. So I realised you could get up on that ledge, but as soon as you turn around you fall off again. I'm getting absolutely destroyed here. I think that's what you're supposed to do, yeah, you're supposed to duck under. Yeah, it looks like sometimes he fires 2, so you can jump over them, and sometimes he fires 3, and you have to duck. It's going really slow at the moment though. That's a nice screen shake effect. And it's game over. It doesn't tell you that you've got a game over, it just tells you to rewind the tape again. But if you do rewind it, it just goes back to the high score table. That is a pretty long video, but I wanted to show it off properly. But yeah, that's Thunderjaws. That's Thunderjaws for the Amstrad CPC. So, thank you for watching.